So we're on lecture 16, and this is the last lecture before the midterm. In terms of what we're going to cover today, there are really two papers left to cover. There's the Friedman et al. Educational Liberation paper, which in some ways flows better from our discussion of the Girls Scholarship Program, because it's sort of like the long-term follow-up of that. And I was sort of going down the road last lecture to do that one next. But I really wanted to get into the details of the Lucas and MBT because of the regression discontinuity application and just actually go through it in more detail. So we're actually going to start with Lucas and MBT. Probably take like 2/3 of the lecture, and then come back to do as much as we can on the Friedman et al. Educational Liberation. So I switched up the order a little bit, but I want to make sure we do go through those sort of technical details with real paper, real data. So that's how I'm thinking about it. Problem set 2, most of you have handed in. Solutions will be passed out right after lecture. The midterm will be here on Tuesday. Just bring pens and stuff, but we'll print out exams in advance for you guys to write on. We'll collect those. And as we talked about last time, there'll be a sort of essay style question, a theory style question, and then a question which will probably be a little longer than the other ones on applying some of the econometric tools that we've been going through. Any questions? Yeah. I thought those were passed out. Were those not passed out, the solutions to problem set 1? So I'm confused because I thought they were passed out. Some of you got them? So how about after lecture, let's just talk a little bit, and I don't know if Pierre's going to be here. Okay. So how about after lecture, let's just come chat, and we can chat with Leon. So I'm just not sure if it was sort of a notification was posted on those solutions. I thought they were out, but let's chat after lecture because I think there's been some confusion. I know that the solutions to problem set 2 will be passed out right after class now, so sorry if there's confusion on that. Yeah. No, you don't need a blue book. We'll just pass out the exam for you to write on, and we'll collect that. Any other questions? Yeah. Definitely feel free to email them and me with questions. I'll be traveling, but I'll do my best. Yeah. Yeah, there was the growth model, the HIV model at the beginning of the models. I think that's all in the first half of the course. Lots of others in the second half. That's the HIV model, really. Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, so let's get started. And like I said, we're going to go to the Lucas and MBT paper first, and then kind of re-switch gears back to the Friedman et al. Paper. The question that Lucas and MBT ask is whether better quality schools improve test scores. Now, this may seem like the answer to this question is really obvious. Like, yes, people want to send their kids to good schools. People themselves want to go to good schools, and the sort of presumption there is that being in a good quality school is going to lead you to learn more and do better. And what's kind of interesting is if you look at the recent evidence on this question, it's actually quite mixed. And Lucas and MBT are part of that set of evidence, and then we can talk through what the implications are. First of all, whether we believe the results, but then what the implications of answering a maybe or no to this question, what the implications of those are for public policy, or sort of our understanding of what drives educational outcomes if it isn't good schools. So it turns out they focus on this in Kenya. This is a good setting to test this. Isaac is Kenyan. His co-author is not. The way the Kenyan system works, and this is actually the reason why this paper is nice, is there's very similar systems in many countries, where in many countries admission to secondary school to universities is based on an exam. There's a national exam, and there's a score, and you have a number, and if you're above a certain number, you're admitted, and if you're below a certain number, you're not. The US system, actually, in that sense, is quite different, in that if you think about admission at the university level or for graduate programs, they basically take into account many different things: GPA, SATs, letters of recommendation, extracurriculars, who your grandfather was in some schools, the size of your bank account, all those kinds of things. Things that don't necessarily seem as fair as maybe just having a number. Of course, the flip side of that is if people from better off backgrounds are able to sort of gain the skills to allow them to get high scores, it's not, this is very meritocratic and very transparent maybe in a certain way, but at the same time, certain groups could certainly have an advantage. So those are issues that are a little bit in the background, we'll get to them a little bit, but not as much for this paper. So in Kenya, there's an exam that people take at the end of primary school, the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, KCPE, and your score on that exam, which takes on values from 1 to 500, that's the scoring system, governs whether you get admitted to a national school. There are 18 elite national schools that are the most competitive to get into. The second tier are provincial schools, and then there are district schools below that. So there's this kind of geographic ordering where the national schools are the most selective, and then on down to provincial and district schools. And then there's also a set of private schools. Some of the private schools are very, relatively low quality for people that couldn't get into these government schools. Other private schools are extremely elite, and some of them aren't even in the system. They're private schools that are really international schools or doing international baccalaureate or other things. So the private schools in Kenya are really heterogeneous at the secondary school level, but for most Kenyans that are not, maybe in this very, very elite strata who go to, international baccalaureate elite school in Nairobi, getting into a national school is really the best educational option they could hope for. And there's certainly a lot of attention placed on, and this is something that Lucas and MBT talk about, the graduates of these schools in the public sphere and how prominent they are and how many leaders come from these schools, and sort of, it's the equivalent, going to an elite secondary school is almost the equivalent of going to an Ivy League or elite, university, say in the US context. So, why do people think it's great to go to these schools? So first of all, if you look at the data, and they talk about some of this in the paper, which I thought was nice to have this detail, the national schools have better trained teachers. Their teachers are about twice as likely to have an advanced degree. Their teachers are more experienced. So, in that sense, the teachers seem like they're better quality. The peers you have in the school are better students themselves because they all had to make it through this process of getting a very high score on the exam. So if you end up in a national school, your peers tend to have really high test scores. And on average, students in the national schools have a 2 standard deviation higher average test score than all secondary school students. So not 0.2, 2 standard deviations. There's huge differences in how well they do on tests. And something that's also important, when you are in secondary school in Kenya, just like there's a KCPE, the Certificate of Primary Education, there's a KCSE, the Certificate of Secondary Education, and that's really the exam you pass to finish secondary school, and you need to score on that exam to gain admission to university or college or other things. So you have to take a certain number of subjects actually on those. Your school has to offer subjects that you take, and you have some choice in which subjects you'll take in the KCSE. The national schools offer more subjects. So it's like the equivalent of going to a high school with more AP courses or something like that. But it's even more severe because you have to take these subjects for the KCSE, and some secondary schools will only have exactly the number of subjects you need to just take the KCSE, and you may have no choice on subject matter, whereas in a national school you may have a choice among various different subjects. So there's a number of ways in which these schools really look like great options. Some of them have beautiful campuses that are 60 years old and great facilities, and everybody has flat screen monitors in their dorm rooms and whatnot. So very different than a typical secondary school, say a district school or a school that's not as elite. So their question is, if you gain admission to one of these schools, how does it change your test scores? Do you actually do better on the KCSE if you spent 4 years at this national school rather than 4 years at a say provincial or district school? So what are some of the reasons why this may, another set of reasons why this may be a good setting to study these issues? First, again, there's one test score. It's centrally administered. It's a standard test. It's graded impartially in Nairobi by Ministry of Education officials that don't know whose test they're grading. And then, because it's a centralized system, everybody who takes the KCPE has to rank their preferences in terms of the schools they'd like to attend. So you get to rank 2 national schools you'd like to attend, 2 provincial schools you'd like to attend, and 2 district schools you'd like to attend. And the way the system works is it's like a rationing system. If I have the highest possible test score, well, then I get my first choice of national school, say, and then they go to the person with the next highest test score. They get to place in their preferred school, and they keep doing that until one of the national school slots are filled. And then if my test score is lower and I want to go to that national school and it's full, I may only get into my second choice school. Now, if my second choice school is full, I get to a provincial school. So it's just fully based on your test score. And all the sort of allocations based on your test score. Although there's a couple of interesting wrinkles to this. And I thought, again, the detail was nice in the paper. Because different districts in Kenya have different populations, and also populations that score on average a bit higher or a bit lower on these exams, quotas are set by district. So it isn't literally that there's one threshold nationwide to gain admission to a school. There's a district level threshold. So maybe there are only 30 slots in this school from a certain district, and 20 from another district, and 25 from a third district. Well, maybe those top 25 people from a certain district get into that very top national school, but the threshold that you need to get in from District A could be very different than the threshold you need from District B or District C. There's also gender-specific thresholds because these schools are actually single-gender boarding schools. So again, there's sort of district and gender-specific thresholds for the various schools. So one of the things that's nice about that here is you actually have in these national schools kids with a pretty wide range of test scores. Their research design, this is anticipating what we'll just put up on a slide in a couple minutes, but it's what you would expect based on our discussion last time. The regression discontinuity is basically going to be comparing, the last kid that got admitted from a certain district to the kid with the next highest test score who just didn't get admitted, who wanted to go to that national school but couldn't. That's going to be the discontinuity. That threshold is different in different districts. So we're going to be able to see what the treatment effect is of being in a national school for some kids with decent test scores, some kids with good test scores, and some kids with really, really strong test scores. So folks who apply to national schools from Nairobi find it hard to get into some of the national schools because there's so many good students in Nairobi with high test scores, and the quota that's allocated to Nairobi doesn't reflect that. So in some ways, it's a lot harder to get into the national school from Nairobi than very remote parts of northeastern Kenya. So that means the folks from northeastern Kenya in the national schools, on average, have much lower test scores than the folks from Nairobi, and the discontinuities are at different points. So they can ask the question, maybe being in a national school has a really big payoff for you if you have a weaker background, but not so much if you have a stronger background, or vice versa. So it's a pretty interesting research design. And I want to emphasize this because not every regression discontinuity study has this kind of design. A lot of regression discontinuity studies have a single threshold. And that's fine for what it is. Remember last time we talked about one of the limitations of a regression discontinuity design is just how local the treatment effect is. Well here, because there's effectively thresholds at all these different points, we're able to estimate treatment effects for people with at least some range of different test scores. So this gets around one of the major methodological limitations of a regression discontinuity design, which is kind of cool. Okay, there's a second part of school allocation that's a little bit less transparent, which is there's a second round of informal transfer. So let's say a certain number of students who go to national schools drop out, it's not a good fit for them, they're unhappy, or they need to move back home to be near family for some reason, or they have a health problem. There's a whole bunch of reasons why slots would open up. So early in the school year, and I think this only really happens in years 1 and 2 of secondary school. Towards the end of secondary school, you can't transfer in like senior year and as much. They're transfers. And the transfers are done at the discretion of the headmaster of the school. It's sort of outside the system. So look, most people end up going to school based purely on the test score, but a certain number of people are transferring in ways that's a lot less transparent, where we might be a little bit more concerned about selection. So going back to my kind of allusion earlier on to the fact that if your granddad was a Harvard alum, it's much easier to get into Harvard or Yale. If your granddad is a very connected politician and you didn't quite make the test score threshold and there's an open slot in one of the national schools, maybe you can end up in a national school. And we can't quite document that perfectly how that process works because it's not done based on a centralized computer program the way the main first round is done. So most of the system is actually very transparent and well understood, but because there are some openings that come up, there's a little bit of manipulation that's possible. Okay, let me pause and see if there's any questions or comments. I'm not sure exactly. I think because it isn't very transparent, I'm not sure exactly how the allocation is done. But my sense is in all these schools, at the beginning of the school year, say there is a little bit of turnover. So I think the headmaster could count on there being a little bit of leeway to do that. And so that's going to, maybe lead certain people to transfer from a provincial school into a national school, or from one national school into another one, since there is a kind of ordering of prestige even among the national schools and things like that. So it seems to me there's a little bit of that goes on. I don't even know the exact percentages. I didn't find in the paper exactly what the numbers are on that, but I think it's a relatively small number. Most people really are allocated in this way. We'll come back to it in 5 or 8 slides, a little bit. So the bottom line, I don't know exactly how the allocation is done. Okay, so again, in thinking through the main question of this paper, the question is, do elite schools produce human capital and actually boost people's scores, or are they just producing all these great grads because of selection, meaning they're selecting the best quality people to start with? Is it, which of these is going on? And again, this is a very relevant question in the U.S. context, and how much of a difference does it make to go to one university or another in the U.S. based on the reputation or the average test scores or whatnot in that university, or is most of your later test score success or success in life, whatever that means, really driven more by your innate ability or your family connections or whatever else drives your outcomes? Yeah.
It seems like the third option, which is equine policy sort of signaling, So even if you don't produce in capital, even if you're a lower quality student, you do get a lot of money because you went hard.
Yeah, so I think that is definitely an issue. And I think that's really a limitation of how they've set this up. And we'll come to that exact point, which is a great point, which is to say the outcome they have is this really nice academic outcome. I mean, they have a test score 4 years later, and it's sort of a minor miracle they were able to match these two national databases. I mean, Isaac got his hands on the full database of test scores in 2004 for the KCPE and in 2008 for the KCSE, and that's incredible data work. He was matching like many hundreds of thousands of observations. But he doesn't have outcomes for these people in the labor market 10 years later. And maybe that's where you'd see the payoff. So let's kind of keep that in mind when we think about the results and try to think what the mechanisms would be. But it could be signaling value that even though your test scores weren't that great and you went to an elite school, the averages are really high in the elite school, so they kind of just confer all these positive attributes to you that you don't necessarily deserve. And then the second one is going to one of these schools enhances your network. So if like the other children of the elite are in this school, when you're looking for a job, you don't really have to worry about it. You call up a few friends and they can kind of help you get something. So it just smooths the process of getting a job. Or maybe if you want to start a business, you have people who can lend you money. There's a whole range of possible advantages. Yeah.
I think it's also the question of access to opportunity. So if the student is doing really, really well, but he doesn't get into this national school, maybe he doesn't get the opportunity to get to his time, get to his successful position that people have by going to the university. So the question of do these universities produce the most human capital is kind of like very different views to look at it, is the way that it calls them.
Yeah.
Because the selection is very like just from people who score the best, then it's making the best of those scores to better.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of potential channels through which this could help people. And then again, maybe the test scores we look at are only one piece of the outcomes we want to look at. So we're kind of missing a lot of these channels that you're alluding to, Sam.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how much practical implication this gives us. If we think of what we this as a continuous variable,
yeah.
It could be that these not so good students, judging by class score, are still going to be able to pretty good scores, just not hovering between maybe or something like that. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that part of what Lucas and BT say is like this KCSE. We're all downplaying. I was even downplaying. Well, maybe it doesn't matter that much and whatnot, but it actually really does affect just the same way that admission to secondary school is driven by an exam. Admission to university is driven by this other exam. So you actually really would want to do better on that exam because it will open a lot of doors in terms of university admission. So it is an important outcome. It's not everything, but we don't want to downplay its importance too much. It is still quite important. If you do better on it, it will open a lot of doors. Okay, so they use a regression discontinuity design, and again, as I mentioned, they have this very large sample where they have a universe of folks. And again, one of the amazing things here is based on the sort of IDs and names of the students, they were able to match when they got the KCSE scores from 2008. They were able to match those back 97% of the time to the KCPE score corresponded to the same individual, which is just incredible, an incredibly good matching rate. So this is really good quality data, again, with hundreds of thousands of observations, and it's very unusual to have this kind of data, but it's actually a testament to the quality of the administrative data that's being collected. Now, it's been very hard for many people who have worked in Kenya to get access to these official government administrative data, and I know that Isaac was only able to access it because of his own connections in the Ministry of Education. So, I mean, basically, his father was a very high-level administrator in the Ministry of Education, and that's allowing him to do all this really great research, basically. But there's been a lot of efforts to try to get micro data by myself and many others for many years. This kind and other types of data that the government hasn't traditionally been that transparent, although they're becoming more transparent. There's actually more and more data that is publicly available now, in Kenya in particular, and a lot of other countries are following in that trend of making data more available. But this is an incredible data set that he was able to obtain because of his own persistence, but also connections. Okay, so what kind of data do they have? I want you to first focus on this left panel. This is the distribution of test scores for the KCPE for the whole country, and you can see each vertical line. This is not a k-density. This is a histogram. Okay, where every vertical line is one score from 0 to 500. And the number of observations at each of those scores is 1,000, 2,000, all the way up to 4,000 in that very thin point. And the way the KCPE is set up is the median is scored at 250. So you can see the median is at 250. And there's a lot of data there. Okay, there's just hundreds and hundreds of thousands of observations. I've highlighted that the red bars there because those are the red bars that correspond to something like 95% of the data in the sample he uses. So the sample that he, and it's Lucas and BT, sorry, I know Isaac better, so I'm saying he, but it's both of them. Lucas and BT use samples that are different district by district and by gender for the individuals that are near the relevant threshold of national schools for their district. So he actually takes a plus or minus half a standard deviation window around the threshold for each district and each gender for admission into a national school. So that's plus or minus 34 points on this test. And as you can see, most of the data in that analysis sample is pretty high. It's like over 400. And you can see it's really in the right tail of the test score distribution nationally. So those red bars correspond. This is sort of blown up a little bit on the right-hand side. So he's studying people in the right tail. These are like the best students, although there's still some variation. If you're at 350, that's good, but not stellar. If you're at 450, that's really stellar. So that's pretty much the distribution that he has. And again, there isn't any one threshold. Every district by gender has its own threshold, and school has its own threshold. So, but this is sort of the range of folks who are even in the game, basically, to get into those schools. Okay, let me pause and see if it's kind of clear where the data is coming from. Yeah?
So the reason why maybe there are so few scores of 350 is because maybe a lot of those are kids in Nairobi who, while they have good scores, they're not
within 34 points of the threshold.
They're not relevant because the threshold in Nairobi is 4.5.
Exactly. That's exactly the reason. Whereas in Northeast province and some of the other poorer areas, you might be able to get into a national school with a 360. And so even the folks with 350s or 340s are like in this window around the threshold. So he picks one. We talked a lot last time, like what should the threshold be and whatnot, what is the optimal threshold. We'll come back to it very briefly later. But he basically takes thresholds of some arbitrary amount, half a standard deviation on each side for each of the relevant thresholds. And he has many thousands of observations as it is, so he's not short on data. He's got pretty precise estimates. Doing that, I'll show you a robustness check in 10 minutes or 15 minutes where he varies that bandwidth. So we'll come back to that a little bit later. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll show you what it means in terms of those who are admitted. Very large shares of them actually go. Now, part of that is because the people with the very top test scores tend to come from better off families who can afford it, but there are also scholarships or bursaries, they're called, that are available as well, not universally in all cases, but are available for some. So the enrollment rates are actually very high, conditional on getting a good test score. Sometimes people, in a particular community who have a good test score, maybe for national school or provincial school or some other school, who can't afford it themselves, will effectively fundraise from friends, neighbors, and relatives to try to help pay for this individual to go to secondary school. So something of this, I talked a little bit, when we talked about Kenyan education, we talked a little bit about community fundraising and the role of the Harambee kind of notion. There's a similar notion even at times for individuals funding or families funding one of their children's education. So the vast majority of people who get a score above the threshold end up completing a national school, as I'll show you, but not everybody. Yeah?